There's thanks from Taipei and disdain from Beijing after a U.S. government website suddenly updates its language about Taiwan. European leaders plan an emergency summit on Ukraine as the U.S. makes clear it will talk directly to Russia to end the war. Last week's deadly mall explosion in Taichung triggers citywide safety inspections. Plus, Taiwan makes headlines for its semiconductors and its relationship with China. But here in the U.S., we're meeting a company that's showing another side of Taiwan. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. The United States has sent a signal that its position on Taiwan and its sovereignty may be shifting with an update to the text of the Taiwan section on the State Department website, deleting the line, "We do not support Taiwan independence." The change comes less than a month into President Donald Trump's new term. Luis Watt is following this story for us and joins us from our newsroom in Taipei. Luis, how significant are these changes?
Well, that's the big question. The US says these are simply part of routine updates. Taiwan, for its part, has expressed gratitude for what it calls positive Taiwan-friendly wordings, and China has slammed the changes, calling on the US to, in its words, immediately correct its mistakes. Let's take a look first at the changes. The US State Department website used to say, "We oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We do not support Taiwan independence, and we expect cross-strait differences to be resolved by peaceful means." Well, now that phrase, "We do not support Taiwan independence," has gone, and they now expect that differences between Taiwan and China will be resolved by peaceful means, but also free from coercion and in a manner acceptable to the people on both sides of the strait. Now, China claims sovereignty over Taiwan. Taiwan says it's its own sovereign country. The US has a long-standing policy not to take sides, not to take a view on who has sovereignty over Taiwan. If we think back to President Biden's administration, President Biden showed support for Taiwan. He even said several times that the US would come to Taiwan's aid in the event of a Chinese attack. Well, during his administration, that line was still in there, although it was briefly removed in 2022 and then put back in after protests from China. Well, I've been talking today to a political analyst who's based in Taipei, Ross Feingold. He also is a former Asia chair of the political organization Republicans Abroad. Now, he says this change has to have come from the top of the US State Department, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who's known to be a China hawk. And Ross Feingold says that he doubts that Rubio would bow to any pressure from Beijing to put that line back in there. Now, we're going to hear a little more from Ross now. I started by asking him, taking out the line, "We do not support Taiwan independence," does this mean the US does now support Taiwan independence?
They've removed this one line that we do not support. Does it mean they oppose? Does it mean they don't oppose? It's anyone's guess. I think the key thing here is the reference to the status quo, and the government under President Trump, U.S. government, opposes any unilateral changes to the status quo.
How should we take these changes? What should we read into them as far as the Trump administration's support for Taiwan?
I think there might be some tension, we could call it, between the president and his national security, defense, foreign policy team. On the one hand, President Trump is reluctant to get involved in overseas wars. He's made that very clear. And in the US-China relationship, the one issue that is most important, that President Trump cares the most about, is the trade issue. And some of these other issues, whether it's Taiwan or Hong Kong or Xinjiang or Tibet, I think President Trump is going to defer to his team. And the interesting thing is his team wants to show political support for these other issues. So again, whether it's Secretary Rubio or Defense Secretary Hegseth, or National Security Advisor Waltz, I think they're going to be very eager to take on the full agenda of US-China issues, and that includes showing political support for Taiwan or for dissidents from the other regions of China. I think President Trump is just going to defer to his team, which actually gives the team a wide open space to make such gestures towards Taiwan or to take action on some of the other issues in the US-China relationship.
That was Ross Feingold, a political analyst and former Asia chair of Republicans Abroad. There's been a surge in Chinese military activity around Taiwan, with dozens of planes spotted near the country. The Defense Ministry detected a total of 41 Chinese aircraft between Sunday and Monday. 28 of those flew into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. The incursions come shortly after a Canadian frigate passed through the Taiwan Strait. Now, China claims Taiwan and sees the strait as its territory. Beijing accused Canada of stirring up trouble and undermining regional stability. Taiwan's defense ministry responded, saying that Taiwan is not part of China and that the Taiwan Strait is international waters, meaning freedom of navigation applies to vessels transiting through it. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said he's ready and willing to send UK troops to Ukraine to help ensure its security. His comments come as key players hold separate talks to end the now 3-year-long war there. Rosie Greninger reports.
Speaking at a security conference in Munich, J.D. Vance, the new US vice president, was expected to focus on Russia's war in Ukraine. But instead, he took a swing at Europe.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values.
Among other things, Vance accused Europe of suppressing free speech, while defending his country's choice to engage directly with Russia, as US President Donald Trump pushes to end the Ukraine war. The unexpected approach leaving Europe scrambling to safeguard its own interests, with French President Emmanuel Macron calling for an emergency leaders summit in Paris to discuss the continent's security.
Il y a un vent d'unité qui souffle sur l'Europe, tel qu'on ne l'avait peut-être pas ressenti depuis la période Covid.
The crisis talks come as US Secretary of State Marco Rubio prepares to lead an American delegation to meet with Russian representatives in Saudi Arabia. The two groups say they will begin peace talks on the almost 3-year war in Ukraine, but they didn't invite the country to participate in negotiations. Also left out, leaders of Ukraine's European neighbours, who have been pressing to be involved. The US has played down their concerns of being sidelined, saying the talks are only in its early stages. Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to begin these negotiations during a phone call with US President Donald Trump last week.
If at any point in time there's an opportunity to continue the work that President Trump started last week to begin to create an opening for a broader conversation, that it would involve Ukraine and would involve the end of the war and would involve our allies all over the world, particularly in Europe, we're going to explore it if that opportunity presents itself.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made it clear he will not accept the outcome of any negotiations that don't involve Ukraine. But this has not affected the US's course of action.
The United States wants to retreat from international organizations, so it is weakening structures of international order. It has questioned international rules, and at the same time it wants to be a player in major difficult situations. And Russia's war on Ukraine is one of those situations that the US has picked to say we will be a key player here to end this war.
But with US support dwindling, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for the creation of European armed forces to help protect his country, as President Trump touts an in-person meeting with his Russian counterpart very soon. Ukraine and Europe are left scrambling for independent guarantees of security. Devon Tsai and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Intel's chip-making rivals TSMC and Broadcom are reportedly each studying potential deals to take over the U.S. tech giant's business, which has been struggling for years. Broadcom's interest in Intel was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. This comes after rumors that Washington is pushing Taiwan's TSMC to work with the American chip firm. TSMC's lion's share of the global advanced chip-making sector is seen as a crucial part of Taiwan's defense and its ability to work with other countries. TSMC told TaiwanPlus that it does not comment on market rumors. South Korea has suspended all new downloads of Chinese AI app DeepSeek. The ban was introduced after DeepSeek acknowledged its privacy policies failed to meet South Korea's data protection standards. The country's Personal Information Protection Commission says downloads of the app can continue if improvements are made to meet local privacy laws.
자체 분석 결과 국내 언론 등에서 지적된 제3 사업자와 통신 기능, 개인정보 처리 방침상 미흡한 부분이 있음을 일부 확인하였습니다.
Despite the ban on new downloads, the AI platform's web service is still accessible in South Korea. Inspections are being carried out in department stores across the central city of Taichung following a suspected gas explosion at a shopping center last week. The blast killed 4 people and injured several others, including a toddler. As John Van Trieste reports, the inspections have already turned up a string of safety issues.
Inspectors with gas detectors combed this kitchen at a department store food court in Taichung, searching for the sort of leak thought to be behind a deadly blast at another shopping center in the city last week, the Shinkong Mitsukoshi department store. In all, 6 local department stores are getting checks, and it hasn't taken long to find possible dangers. Here, they found a rusty gas connector with signs of leakage. They've shut the gas off just in case. And here, more cause for concern, this time in the electrical wiring department. Department stores where problems are found face fines if they don't fix them. But the city says there are limits to what it can do to enforce safety rules. The blast at the Shinkong Mitsukoshi may be linked to illegal renovation work going on at the time. And officials say with no one blowing the whistle, they had no way of knowing about potential violations.
我们真的没有办法透过内部的网页跟它相关的一些脸书里面的相关的消费者去知道所有的有没有施工或迁移的公告。
That doesn't mean there won't be consequences for the Shinkong Mitsukoshi store's owners. In addition to fines, they're paying over $330,000 for each of the 4 people killed in the blast, 2 staff members and 2 passers-by. And they've already paid the 30-plus injured people compensation. Injured staff members, though, worry about the future. The shopping center is their livelihood. It's not only shut down indefinitely, but also heavily damaged from the explosion.
我们会担心，但是因为星光三月他们也有保证说，就是他后续的工作。
Any reopening will be far off, though, as investigators still try to piece together how the disaster happened and who in the end is responsible. Scott Huang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Investigators are looking into why a military aircraft crashed over the weekend. While the pilot is safe, the aircraft is lost somewhere in the ocean. It sparked debate about how safe Taiwan's domestically made aircraft are, as this is the first incident of its kind. Jaime Okan reports.
This is Taiwan's indigenous jet trainer, known as the AT-5 or the Brave Eagle. It's a domestically made aircraft used to train pilots, and on Saturday it suffered its first crash since entering service in 2021. Sources close to the Air Force say that a double engine failure caused the aircraft to go down in the ocean, though the pilot is safe. The entire fleet of roughly 40 aircraft has been grounded for inspection. But observers in Taiwan are not too concerned about the safety of the Brave Eagle. Compared to other jets like the French-made Mirage 2000 or the US-made F-16, made in Taiwan aircraft rarely face incidents.
It is the safest fighter jets in its entire fleet, along with F-16s and the Mirage. You have the lowest incidence rates. So it's a very safe jet. So I wouldn't say that this would raise much concern.
The Brave Eagle is part of Taiwan's efforts to reduce its reliance on other countries like the U.S. for weapons and defense equipment. More than half of the components for the jet are made in Taiwan. But when it comes to technical issues or complications, that's when Taiwan faces trouble, as it's hard for Taiwan to seek help from the international community because no one else flies these planes. The aircraft is often compared to the F-16, one of the most flown fighter jets in the world, with an established community to help troubleshoot problems.
你 F-16所有使用国，他们会组成一个类似像这个联盟。那这个联盟，你在你的使用上，你碰到一些任何的问题，你都可以丢到这个联盟里面去。会有其他国家，因为也许你在这边有问题，这些事情以前可能在别的国家就发生过。那这个时候，别的国家的人可能就告诉你，我们以前怎么解决的。
While troubleshooting it may be more difficult, some experts say that this doesn't mean Taiwan should abandon its domestic industry. The Air Force is still waiting for delivery of a total of 66 jet trainers. TaiwanPlus was invited by the military last year to see how they are used, with advanced flight simulators similar to the Brave Eagle helping to improve training.
What I'm saying now, if there's no reason to be overly alarmed, next year, by the end of 2026, all these 66, now it's 65 advanced jet trainers, they will be delivered, play a crucial role in the training of Taiwan's fighter jet pilots.
In spite of the crash, analysts say that Taiwan's Air Force should think carefully about the investments it will have to make to ensure its domestically made aircraft have the parts, maintenance, and support they need.
你全地球只有你台湾用这个 AJT， 所以你所有的问题，你不但获得不了国际的解决，相对的，因为你这个飞机只生产这66架，所以你在未来30年，你的作业维持成本会非常麻烦。
While the investigation into Saturday's crash continues, Taiwan is alone in trying to find out what exactly happened. But as the country develops its own aircraft in pursuit of building up domestic defense industries, these lessons will have to be learned the hard way. John Su and Jaime Okum for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, police discover more human remains in the serial murder case gripping Kaohsiung in southern Taiwan.
Taiwan, a true paradise for plant lovers. Home to ancient forests that whisper tales of time. Each flower blooms with unique beauty. Visit the caretakers who nurture these green jewels.
I'm Jason. Follow me and my friend Trevor to enjoy the amazing botanical wonders.
Explore culture and traditions deeply rooted in Taiwan's verdant landscapes.
We got our broom.
On a journey through Taiwan's native plant species to witness the unparalleled beauty and diversity of Taiwan.
That's so cool!
Botanical Wonders, every Wednesday, 8:15 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. More human remains have been found as the search for 3 women targeted by a suspected serial killer continues in Kaohsiung. Tiffany Wong brings us the latest.
Searching for signs of 3 missing women believed to have been killed and dismembered in Taiwan's southern city of Kaohsiung, as a 73-year-old suspect is held in detention. Divers found 8 body parts and a human bone in the water, and nearby they found a suspicious bag.
一个塑胶袋，塑胶袋里面是什么？塑胶袋里面是衣服、裤子。
Some of the clothing had burn marks and reddish-brown stains. A total of 62 body parts have been found so far, 37 of which matched DNA from 2 of the victims. Police have been combing Kaohsiung's riverbeds with the help of dive teams, sonar equipment, and underwater cameras in the grisly search for human remains.
地毯式的扫描然后今天早上又把那个拼图又把它那个技侦有展现出来了那我们就是把根据这个影像的内涵，就是底床的这个状况，然后来 列出了一些可疑的这个位置。
The search goes on. Police are still looking for the heads of the victims and signs of the third presumed victim, the suspect's sister-in-law, who has been missing. Luffy Li and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has praised U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to move Palestinians out of Gaza as, quote, the only viable plan to enable a different future for the region.
If people want to leave, if they want to emigrate, it's their choice. And I think President Trump's plan is right on the dot.
Netanyahu discussed the plan with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is visiting the Middle East. Rubio is likely to face more pushback from Arab leaders over Trump's proposal to redevelop Gaza. The UN chief has condemned it as ethnic cleansing. Also, during Rubio's meetings with Netanyahu, the two vowed to counter Iran's nuclear ambitions. Geopolitics and bubble tea are often top of mind when Americans think about Taiwan. But deepening cultural ties between Washington and Taipei are helping diversify Taiwan's image overseas. I went to New York to meet a Taiwanese American business owner who's breaking conventional perceptions about Taiwan through tea. It's been a long day of work for Elena Liao. She's spent the day sorting through her merchandise and getting it fit for the shop floor just before the busy season. The Taiwanese American runs a small tea business in New York City from her Brooklyn warehouse.
All the teas are from Taiwan. We have, I would say, like 30 to 40 kinds regularly throughout the year.
Tea Company ships bespoke teas, handmade cookies, and specialty tea cakes all over the United States, with 2 tea houses right in New York. What started out as a side hustle is now a budding beacon of traditional Taiwanese tea. She's entered the market at a time when Taiwan's government has been leveraging the popularity of bubble tea abroad. The sweet tea-based drink with tapioca balls originated in Taiwan in the 1980s and exploded onto the global market. It's now closely associated with Taiwanese culture, attracting attention to the country's innovation and adaptability. Taiwanese diplomats pose for photos with the drink, while President Liao has celebrated it on social media. And there are events that celebrate Taiwanese bubble tea overseas as well. It also features prominently on souvenirs like keychains and even the country's 2024 Olympic pin.
Bubble tea can be really good for resonating with the audiences that do care a lot about bubble tea and hopefully widening, the perceptions around Taiwan, acting as an entry point for people to learn about Taiwan. But at the same time, it's not going to resonate with everyone. So it is good to have different types of products that can circulate and see what resonates with different audiences.
With the drink so popular on the international stage, Elena says she's not trying to break into the already saturated market, but offering something closer to Taiwan's traditional tea culture, something slower and more deeply rooted in the country's history.
These teas are way too expensive for anything that has to do with bubble tea or those big bubble tea-like beverages. And so these are what they call like old people tea in Taiwan, like the one you would brew, and that's our tea.
And she's found there is a market for her teas in the United States.
And so we start to notice that the teas that really resonate with people are actually the same ones that had resonated with people in Taiwan for generations. And if you really think about it, it's logical. It's been through, generations, centuries of product testing, right?
But Elena's company doesn't just import tea from Taiwan and sell it as is. A little creative maneuvering is necessary to market fine Taiwanese teas to American consumers. Tea Company acts as a cultural bridge. It imports exquisite Taiwanese teas in loose leaf, but it also innovates and repackages those same teas into formats that are more familiar for American customers, like tea bags. At a time when Taiwan is making headlines for its fraught relationship with China, Elena's products offer American consumers a different taste of the country.
I think it's good for them to read the, whatever news about Taiwan, and then they're like, oh, I know something else about Taiwan, and there is a tea shop, and I had a cookie there, and I know, and kind of a different sensibility and connection to where I'm from. So that's kind of nice.
Showcasing a more nuanced side of Taiwan, one beyond geopolitics and even bubble tea, Elena's brewing stronger and more robust cultural connections between the U.S. and Taiwan, ones that go down like a warm cup of tea. Leon Lian, Laurel Stewart, and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. Conservationists are celebrating a record number of green sea turtle nests on an island in the South China Sea controlled by Taiwan. In just 4 months, more than 140 of the endangered turtles were observed coming ashore on Taipei Island to lay an estimated 15,000 eggs. Among them was the smallest ever egg-laying specimen recorded in Taiwan, indicating many young turtles may be laying eggs and that conservation efforts are paying off. Researchers also observed mating behavior indicating Taipei's importance to the life cycle of the species. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you to Italy for the Venice Carnival, where wooden boats float down the Grand Canal, including one of a giant rat, the symbol of the parade. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.
For more stories from here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and around the world, make sure to visit us on social media.